Late one night, the park was cloaked in darkness, and the dim glow of the lampposts offered little solace to those brave enough to wander its shadowy paths. As I took my usual route through the park, my footsteps echoed in the stillness, and an eerie feeling began to creep up my spine. As I turned a corner, I stumbled upon a sight that sent a shiver down my spine. A group of individuals huddled together near the bushes, engaged in hushed conversations and suspicious glances. Their body language was tense, and it was evident that something was amiss. In the faint moonlight, I could make out small packages changing hands, and it dawned on me that I had accidentally stumbled upon a drug deal. My heart pounded in my chest as I realized the potential danger of my situation. The last thing I wanted was to draw attention to myself and risk their wrath. Fearful of their reaction, I immediately veered off my path, trying my best to remain inconspicuous as I walked at a hurried pace. My mind was racing with thoughts of escape, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. My breathing became shallow and rapid as I pushed myself to put as much distance between me and the suspicious group as possible. I could feel their eyes on my back, and paranoia made every shadow seem like a potential threat. Each rustle of leaves made me flinch, and I couldn't help but wonder if they were following me, ready to silence any potential witness to their illegal activities. I decided to change my route, hoping to avoid any further encounters with the group. My heart pounded loudly in my ears as I took unfamiliar paths, trying to find my way out of the park as quickly as possible. The darkness seemed to close in around me, and the silence of the night was deafening. Finally, I reached the park's exit and breathed a sigh of relief as the streetlights welcomed me back to safety. I knew I had to do something about what I had witnessed, but I also knew that I couldn't handle it alone. My mind was torn between reporting the incident and protecting my own safety. After much contemplation, I decided to report the drug deal to the police. I knew that staying silent would only allow such activities to persist, putting others in danger. With my heart still pounding in my chest, I recounted the details of what I had seen, leaving out any identifying information that could lead back to me. The police took my report seriously and assured me that they would investigate the matter. I couldn't help but feel a sense of dread, wondering if the individuals I had seen in the park would somehow find out about my involvement. But I also knew that reporting the incident was the right thing to do, regardless of the risks. In the days that followed, I anxiously waited for any updates from the police. Every unfamiliar face I saw in the neighborhood sent a jolt of fear through me, and I couldn't help but second-guess my decision to come forward. But then, one day I received a call from the police. They had made several arrests in connection with the drug deal in the park. The sense of relief that washed over me was overwhelming, knowing that I had played a small part in making the park safer for others. Alright, let me share with you the spine-chilling encounter I had at the park, a story that still haunts me to this day. It was an ordinary evening, and I decided to take a walk at the nearby park to clear my head and unwind after a long day. Little did I know that this peaceful stroll would turn into one of the scariest experiences of my life. As I entered the park, I felt a strange sense of unease in the air. The sun had just begun to set, and the park was gradually enveloped in darkness. I dismissed my initial discomfort as mere paranoia and continued walking along the familiar path, trying to enjoy the soothing sounds of nature around me. As I ventured deeper into the park, the sense of unease grew stronger, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. Every rustle of leaves, every distant sound sent shivers down my spine. I quickened my pace, hoping to reach the more well-lit areas of the park, but the feeling of being followed persisted. Suddenly, I heard footsteps behind me. I turned around, but there was no one in sight. The park seemed deserted, and the sound of the footsteps echoed ominously in the silent surroundings. I tried to convince myself that it was just an animal or a fellow park goer, but something about it felt off. The footsteps continued, growing closer and closer. Panic began to well up inside me, and I felt a chill crawl down my back. My heart was pounding in my chest as I picked up my pace even more, determined to get out of there as fast as possible. Just when I thought I couldn't bear it any longer, the footsteps stopped. I paused, looking around cautiously. there was no one in sight. It was as if the presence haunting me had vanished into thin air. Still on edge, I decided to cut my walk short and head back home. As I retraced my steps, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. Every shadow seemed to hide a lurking figure, and the rustling of leaves made me jump. My imagination ran wild with thoughts of what could have been following me. Finally, I reached the park's exit, relieved to be out of that unsettling place. But as I turned to take one last look at the park, I froze. Standing near the tree line was a figure, barely visible in the fading light. It was tall and motionless, watching me intently. My heart pounded in my chest and I couldn't tear my eyes away from the figure. I had no idea who or what it was, but its presence sent waves of terror through me. Without thinking, I turned and sprinted back home, not daring to look back. That night I couldn't sleep, haunted by the memory of the mysterious figure at the park. I couldn't explain what I had experienced, and the fear of the unknown gnawed at my mind. To this day, I avoid that park at all costs, and the memory of that terrifying encounter still sends shivers down my spine. Sometimes the darkness holds secrets that are better left undiscovered, and that night at the park was a stark reminder of that chilling truth. As I sat alone on a worn-out park bench, enjoying the gentle breeze that rustled the leaves around me, the day was slowly coming to an end. The sun's warm embrace began to wane, casting long shadows across the park, and the once vibrant surroundings took on an eerie stillness. Lost in my thoughts, I barely noticed the figure approaching from the corner of my eye. But as he drew nearer, a prickling sensation crawled up my spine. There was something off about him, an unsettling aura that made my senses tingle with unease. He appeared to be in his mid-30s, with scruffy facial hair and worn-out clothes that seemed to blend into the unkempt surroundings. But it wasn't just his appearance that put me on edge. It was the intense look in his eyes, like he was searching for something, or someone. I tried to brush off the sense of discomfort, convincing myself that he was just another park goer. But as he drew nearer, my heart began to thump in my chest. "Hey, you there?" he called out, his voice tinged with desperation and urgency. "Spare some change?" His words hung in the air, and for a moment the world seemed to stand still. The park, usually filled with the laughter of children and the chatter of families, now seemed eerily quiet, as if holding its breath. Feeling trapped and vulnerable, I hesitated for a moment, unsure of how to respond to this stranger's aggressive request. I glanced around, hoping to spot someone nearby who could help, but the few people scattered around seemed too far away to be of any assistance. My mind raced, considering my options. Should I comply with his demands, hoping he would leave me alone? Or should I assert myself and refuse, risking who knows what kind of reaction from this unpredictable man? In the end, fear prevailed, and I reached into my pocket to fish out a few coins. Handing them over, I forced a nervous smile, hoping he would take the money and go away. But instead he seemed to linger, as if waiting for more. "That's all you got?" he growled, his eyes narrowing with disappointment and anger. "I'm sorry, that's all I have right now," I stammered, my voice barely audible. His stare intensified, and for a moment, I thought he might become aggressive. But then, to my relief, he finally snatched the coins from my hand and turned away, muttering something under his breath. As he walked off, a wave of relief washed over me, but it was quickly replaced by a lingering sense of unease. The encounter had left me shaken, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I had just narrowly escaped a dangerous situation. From that moment on, my visits to the park were filled with caution and apprehension. The once inviting greenery now seemed fraught with hidden dangers, and I found myself constantly scanning my surroundings, alert to any potential threats. Every rustle of leaves or distant footstep made my heart race, and I often found myself looking over my shoulder, half expecting to see that unsettling stranger again. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the park, I made my way home, carrying with me a lingering sense of unease.